Yeah. Hi, I'm Paul Shaffer.
I'm Willie.
And you are watching the Letterman Podcast.
La, la, la.
Welcome once again to the Letterman Podcast. My name is Mike Chisholm. All right, this is a fantastic episode. And by the way, it's great to be back. Thank you for everybody who has reached out. Appreciate that. We've got a few episodes in the can, but this is our first episode back, and it's the most recent one. It was shot a couple of days before the release date. Before what you're listening to now, it was just shot a couple of days ago because we have Jordan Zevon, the son of Warren Zevon, collaborator with his dad, of course, as well. And the announcement made a couple of months ago was that Warren Zevon is going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is really awesome for those of us who are, excited about such things. And a few years ago, where we thought it was going to happen, and then there was voting involved and all that sort of stuff, and Warren almost made it, but it didn't quite happen, and there was a bunch of disappointment. Oh, we talk about that. We talk about that and many, many other things in this episode here. Jordan's awesome, and we're also joined by Adam Unger, who has been on the show, friend of the show. He is the official Warren Zevon historian. He's on the show as well with Jordan, and we have just this amazing conversation about. Of course, about Warren, but also about Jordan and what he does, and the way that he has interacted with this amazing legacy, with his dad and the body of work that Late Night and Late Show with David Letterman produced. He was there for all of it, whether it was observing his dad or posthumously or performing with his dad sometimes, or posthumously in tribute to his dad, or sharing his own music on Late Show. He appeared on Late Show 4 times. One of those times was with the Wallflowers. We talk about all of that stuff. And it's just a very fun conversation. It was just a lot of fun. Adam and I are buds, and that was really nice to reunite with him in this way. And then having Jordan just put in all of this color. I highly recommend, let's look at the body of work of Warren Zevon and some of the songs that we talk about. And Jordan sings a song called Studebaker, and he talks about the story of that song in this episode, and all of Jordan's stuff. The EP and the compilation are both very, very good. I highly recommend them. Add them to your streaming library. And yeah, I just really honored to talk about Warren Zevon with his son, Jordan. The Letterman Podcast has one sponsor only, and that is hello-deli.com. Go to hello-deli.com and go find some Late Show with David Letterman merchandise, t-shirts and mugs and all sorts of fun stuff, curated by the man, the myth, the legend, Rupert G., who, by the way, we also shot an episode with, along with Steve Young, and that's going to be coming out in a few weeks, and Irene Hoffman, for that matter, while they're in Greece. That's going to be coming out. We've got Andy Kaufman, official historian Andrew Buss, coming up, and other episodes as well. A long lost episode with Steve Weiner, that's coming out, and another new one with Steve Weiner. We got lots of good stuff coming out. I'm getting my energy back, and I just, again, appreciate everybody. Please enjoy the return episode of the Letterman Podcast with our very special guest, Jordan Zevon. All right, Adam, you've been on the show many times, and you're a friend of the show already. We're going to get to you in a little while. I'm grateful that you're here, because you're going to keep us on the straight and narrow when it comes to facts and numbers and all that sort of stuff, because you're the Yoda when it comes to that. But Jordan, I gotta ask you. The first question I'm going to ask you, I've had about 6 or 7 different ways I wanted to start this episode, and I didn't really know which question I was going to start with until right this very second. I now know what it is. I am very curious what your response was when Kid Rock's All Summer Long came out.
Okay, so here's the deal. It was a long time ago. Kid Rock was not a different person, but it was a different climate.
Okay.
And he was extremely professional and sent a demo of it. And, back then it was just like he was using the song. He made us co-writers.
Yep.
So it wasn't like, people heard it and said, "Oh my God, you got to sue." And I'm like, no, we're good.
Yep.
And, I used to listen to a lot of Bill Cosby albums. What can I tell you?
Oh, yeah. And like, okay, so I'm the guy that basically says I can separate the art from the artist. I
Yeah.
truly believe that great art is made by messed up people many times. I mean, you hear, I'll use sort of a maybe perhaps a more, innocent example. You think about Prince and the body of work that Prince created, and then you hear the stories about how odd Prince, may or may not have been, or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, to come up with the stuff that you come up with, many times you have somebody who is a very outside the box type person. But that being said, I remember hearing All Summer Long for the first time, and I got goosebumps in a way because it just felt like such an honor to both the songs, like not just to Werewolves,
Yeah.
but to both. And I thought in my head, yeah, I bet you the family's really grateful that that song has become relevant again in a different way to a different group of people.
Yeah, it was just a cool thing. And I think that from my experience with Dad, I feel like, I mean, obviously all these posthumous choices that I make, I've joked with Adam when we, as I call it, get cute with things, that, we're going to get haunted.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't think that we've done anything that would really kind of, open up the gates of hell. And I think that he would appreciate that. I mean, he really liked Eminem. He
Yep.
really liked, he thought Personal Jesus was one of the most brilliant songs ever written.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, he was open to different music and stuff like that. And I think he thought it was a cool tribute. I don't know if musically he would think that it was the most creative thing that's ever been done.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think that he would have appreciated it, especially being a co-writer. And like I said, having done the whole thing the right way.
I totally agree. It wasn't like it was a sample or something like that. It was a tribute in every sense of the word. The idea that Warren Zevon liked Depeche Mode, or a Depeche Mode song anyway, really, really, really intrigues me a lot. Yeah, I'm a big music fan. There's a few things that I want to get to here in a second. A lot of the different circles of how different artists circle around different artists, and I do want to get to that. But I want to ask you this. Do you find that you live in the shadow of your father? And did you live in it more before he passed or after?
Well, I mean, the thing about it was definitely, if there is any of that, it came after,
Yeah.
because I was also in a band and it was just kind of a different focus.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think that I live in the shadow of the music that I like. It's probably the reason I haven't put out more music, is because I'm so picky, because I spoiled myself on Miles Davis and Joni Mitchell. And what my dad did is he opened a door to a sophistication in music that a 7-year-old normally wouldn't be into.
Yep.
And so I had that on my side, on my dad's side, and then on my mom's side, she was taking me to see like Monty Python movies. I saw Monty Python at the Hollywood Bowl when I was like 11 or something. So I was introduced to this kind of like higher bar of those types of things. So when it came down to creating my own, it was like, oh crap. I mean, I don't know how to write something that I feel is good enough to put out into the world. And even on my record, there's like 4 songs that I would immediately throw away.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't want to
Okay.
ask which ones, because I do really like the work that you put out. And I do want to get to that as well. And we are going to get to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stuff, folks. We're going to get to that. But at the end of the day, I think that what you're talking about here is probably one of the reasons why Warren gravitated so much, not just to the David Letterman show, but to Letterman personally as well. I mean, what you just described, the idea of these, okay, like a Joni Mitchell, but then a Monty Python. Now let's try and combine them and see if what we can do
Yeah.
for a style of music. Might not be too far off the mark with an apt description of your dad's type of rock and roll. You know, the clever, the irreverent, the very, very interesting. The writing is just incredible, and that was an influence on you early on as well.
Yeah, and I used to tell him, like, you should write a novel, you should write a novel. But
Yeah,
those were his big rock stars, and he's like, I'm not good enough, which is kind of a crazy thing to hear Warren Zevon say.
yeah.
But so, yeah, so I mean, obviously, it doesn't plague me as much as you think because my music was different. I was listening to UK kind of power pop growing up. I wasn't listening to like the Eagles and stuff like that. So my music never got too comparative. And I told everybody before my album came out, I'm like, just sit back and watch how many writers say something about the apple in the tree.
Oh my
It's either
gosh.
the apple hasn't fallen far from or the apple's rolled down the hill. And sure enough, like every other review. And just knowing that ahead of time was like, all right.
You sang before he passed away, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Okay,
sang on
so
a bunch of his records, and
yeah,
I was in a.
okay. But that being said, I listened to Studebaker, and I mean, I don't know how many times you have heard this over the years. It must be, hundreds, I would think. I hear you as soon as you open up, I hear your dad too. Like, and I'm certain that you have gotten that. Did you get that while he was alive as well?
No,
Ah, that is very
because
interesting.
he would bring me in to do the Crosby parts,
Uh-huh.
and you can listen to like other songs on my record and hear that I don't really have a similar voice. I can do
Totally.
his voice pretty close. Pretty. There is actually another version of Studebaker that we did just for the hell of it, where I did it as dad. But
Wow.
it was intentional to kind of not do that. And when I did his songs live at like tribute shows,
Yep.
I used to really put that on. And it was actually Jackson who was like, yeah, that's cool, but you might want to try it in your own voice. I was like, okay. The parlor trick's getting a little old.
One thing that actually, you know what? I'll ask this right now, I guess. A couple things you and I have in common. Number one, we both lost our dads. Mine just much more recent, and your dad's music has actually really, really helped me going through that. My gosh, I've listened to The Wind. I don't know how many times I've listened to The Wind in the last 6 weeks since my father passed. But the other thing, we're both left-handed guitar players. Now, I don't flip my guitar the way that you do. I've got to ask this question. Have you flipped any of your dad's guitars and used them?
Oh yeah. When I played on Letterman, I think I've only used his guitars
That's awesome.
because behind me there's a 1940 something broadcaster.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess it's mine because he gave it to me on my 30th birthday after bothering him daily because he didn't play it. And then there's a Gibson Electro Blues King acoustic,
Yeah.
and I played that. So almost all my guitars are just flipped right-handed guitars, except I've gotten cute every once in a while, and I have a Rickenbacker 12 string that's a right-handed body strung left-handed. And then just recently, like by some miracle on eBay, I found somebody who wanted to play the way I play and was just like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. So it's like this sunburst telly that, wait, here.
Oh, right on.
So this is, let's see. Yeah, all I need is to have the broadcaster thunk on the ground in the middle of an interview. Let me see what you're seeing so I can know what I'm. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is said broadcaster.
Fantastic.
So that was when I did Jokes on Me.
That's for the
I
jokes on
brought
me.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I brought that to New York. I brought that to New York, and I will never, ever travel with that guitar again because I had so many instances where I'm walking through the airport with it on my back, and I had a
Yep.
panic attack and went, "Oh my God, where is it?
Yep.
Not worth it." And then this is the one that I got recently that I love, which is so left-handed
Beautiful.
body,
Yep.
strong writing. So I'm
That's
not
beautiful.
turning it up and down every time I play the guitar.
I'm not a, I shouldn't say I'm a guitar player. I can play, 20 chords and usually sing, be able to play enough chords that I can sing along to it. But I've always used left-handed guitars that are tuned as left-handed. The pickups are left-handed, all of that stuff. I've heard that when you restring a right one, to the left and you just play it like that, and if you don't monkey around with the pickups and stuff too much, you get a unique sound. Is that do you find that?
Well, I don't remember. I string them. All my guitars are right-hand stringing, so
Right.
I've
Oh, they're
never. I don't
right-handed
flip
stringing.
the
That's right.
strings. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I would imagine. I don't know if it's the most desirable sound that you could get. I mean, Hendrix kind of had to, but
Yeah.
I would think that he probably flipped the pickups. But I'm not a tech expert. It might just be if you adjust the height of the pickups, you get pretty close. But
Yep.
just depending on how the bridge is placed and those kind of different dynamics, I don't think you get as far as like a Nashville tuning, but I think you probably get something different. Different's not bad.
No,
But I've
difference
never
not
tried. If
absolutely.
somebody gave me a left-handed guitar, I'd find out.
Yeah, yeah, I
I'd
guess you
immediately
would.
have to mess it up.
You were talking about when you performed on Letterman, you were on 4 times. And but your dad obviously, I think your dad was 30 times total in the times between performances and the times that he subbed for Paul.
Yeah.
During those times, dad was in the thick of it in his career, that kind of a thing. Would you go to New York and go to the Letterman tapings ever during those times?
I went out there when he filled in for Paul.
Yeah.
Both my sister and I went out and hung out for a little bit. And that was really cool because we got to just completely take in the whole vibe.
Yeah.
I don't think, yeah, I think that was the only time I went out there other than when I performed with him.
Yeah.
Because it was just, it was work.
Yeah. No, I hear that. The people who are the fans of the art, many times, we celebrate the art, but the artists themselves, it's work, and that's how it, that's really, really what it is. Your dad talked about the idea, his last Letterman appearance, how, he feel like he was, I think to paraphrase it, he got away with something to have a job like this, where you can have a job like this.
Yeah.
And it was a slide in to tell how grateful he was, but it still is a job at that point. And so,
Yeah, and the thing about that show especially is that it's got a great vibe and the people are great and everything else, but they're doing a job and they do it every day.
yep.
And you can make of it what you will for your experience, but show up, do what you have to do, get out of our way, let us put on our show.
Yep.
And so I think that was just kind of his mentality. It's like, I'm going to go check into Morgan's, I'm going to do the show, I'm going to get out.
Yep. Do you remember the first time when he was tapped to take over for Paul as the band leader, and what the reaction was when that request came in?
The thing I remember the most is that he was excited about getting ties and some suits out of it. Because I think the deal was it just paid scale, but he's like, they're going to buy me some Prada stuff. And when I guess it was when I did Searching for a Heart, that first time when I came on and did that the costume woman came up to me with this kind of gray leather bag and handed it to me. And it was all his ties.
You're talking about
She
Sue
was
Hum, I
so
believe. That's
Yes,
Sue Hum.
exactly.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. And Sue came up.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Sue, I didn't remember your name.
No,
off
no,
the
no,
top
no,
of
no.
my
That's
head.
okay. We got you. We got you on that one. She's been on the show a
But she
couple of
was-
times. She's gonna be
Yeah, she
delighted
was
to hear you talk
so
about
excited to bring me those ties, and I was so excited to get them, and I still have them. And except for the pink and gray dot one, I've worn them when he tried to make some choices. But yeah, he had fun, and he told them like, "I want to be goofy. I want to have fun." So that's where that whole sketch of him getting hit by the taxi and putting his helmet on backwards, because I don't think he's ever put a helmet on. But yeah, that was his thing. He wanted to be like He didn't just want to sit there and be straight guy. He wanted to have some fun.
Yeah. Um, let's not bury the lead. Like there are going to be people who are just talk about the Hall of Fame, talk about the Hall of Fame. Let me build it a little bit. A couple of years ago, right around the time actually, I think we started this show. There was a groundswell, and the groundswell to finally get Warren Zevon inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The voting was happening. There was a campaign. I think even Dave and Paul even talked about it, to get it out there. And we kind of thought it was going to happen. It didn't happen. And, I think a lot of people were thought, okay, well, if it's not going to happen at this point here, it probably isn't going to happen. I know you've been quoted since the announcement that it's one of those things where okay, we just leave it, it's not going to happen, and then suddenly it happens. The feeling when the announcement, I guess it's about 2 months ago now, when it was announced that it was going to happen, I am so curious. Who called you? Was there any inkling that it could happen? Was it right clear out of the blue? Where were you? What were you doing?
There was absolutely nothing.
God.
Unlike the nomination,
Yes.
when they reached out ahead of time and
Yep.
said, this is going to happen on this date, here's what to prepare for.
Yep.
We had everything kind of ready to go. This was a reporter. I got, I don't know if it was an email or something like that from a reporter. And he said, well, your dad is in the Hall of Fame. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, he's being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I'm calling to get the scoop. They let me come and, get all my ducks in a row before the news is announced. They're going to announce it on American Idol.
Oh, American Idol. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that was it, and I was just kind of like, okay. It was so strange to have gone through. I mean, Adam knows we went through such a process of like, what graphic are we going to create today and what kind of thing. I had stickers and magnets made to send to people if they sent me a stamped envelope just to thank them for the support and everything. We really had fun with it. And when that was over and it didn't happen, I don't know if it was only just the idea that I didn't think it was going to happen. There was part of me that was just like, oh God, I can't go through that again. Like, I cannot, it was, because it was fun, but it was also exhausting. I'm not a big fan of social media, and it pulled me deep, deep, deep into social media. So that was the other relief. It was like, we don't even have to go through that this time. It's just going to be like, boom, we're done. I can start making calls, and also this time nobody knew.
Yeah,
I was
and I think
literally
that
like
that
the
was
only
kind
one
of
in the
fun. It
whole
hit
crew that
everybody
knew.
out of nowhere, so yourself included in that. I want to talk about the moment when you knew, but before you started making the calls, what was that feeling? Like that, it must have been such a unique, incredible feeling for you.
It took a little while.
Yeah.
It didn't really set in at all. It was just kind of um like, I can't, like, this is so strange. I mean, obviously I was very excited to tell people and have their reaction of like, what do you mean? It's like, he's in. Oh, you mean he's not? No, no, no. He's in. This is like done. So like, my close circle, I didn't leak. Um, and then because I'm my father's son, I thought, oh, well, I better go on a diet. So that's what ran through my head. Oh my God, this is happening, and I better go on a diet.
Gonna
It
enjoy
was
a
kind
few
of
less
strange.
sandwiches for a while.
Yeah.
What a moment, and I'm grateful that you had that space, like knowing everything that Adam's told me about you, and then of course what the public all knows and sees and whatnot, and again knowing what that disappointment must have felt like. Whether that space was a couple of days, whether it was a week, whatever it was, I'm really grateful that you got a chance to have that space and enjoy the processing of something that, as far as I'm concerned, and many of us are, of course, are concerned, it should have happened a long, long time ago, and it's going to happen. Thank God. It
Yeah.
feels a little bit like all is right with the world that it is happening.
Yeah, I think I mean, it just makes perfect sense. If you aren't going to give him the commercial success, if fate's not going to deal that card,
Yeah.
then it at least makes sense to have him in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, no matter what your feelings are about it. My opinion has always been if they're going to have one, then there's some people that should be in it. And of course, there's still long list of people, and everybody can have their debate about what music does and doesn't, and all those types of things. But the bottom line is they have it, and I'm really proud, and it makes sense. It just really does because if any kind of art is only going to be judged by how many people buy it or how many ears hear it, then
Yeah.
we're not, we're just lovers of commerce.
Oh, yeah. That's a fantastic way of putting that. That's exactly right. Because the folks who inspire the things that end up leading to commerce once it's been diluted and packaged and changed and moved around a little bit, the things that inspired those things. Your dad's one of those guys, and
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that I look for, whether it's music these days or film or the things that make me think from the artistic standpoint. They're the things that are different. They're the things that get you talking about different things the way that pop stuff does. And
Yeah.
and that is certainly the way that your dad did it, but he flirted with that pop side still
Oh yeah.
sometimes, and one of the things with I'm super curious. I know that Adam and I have talked about well, this is the word that I'll use, the messy state of record label and rights and things like that when it comes to your dad's stuff. I assume that as he was going through his career, there would have been pressure from other labels to, hey, fall in line, just listen to marketing, just listen to this. We're going to put you with this producer, just listen to these people, and put out what the market wants. I assume that that would be something that he would have at least been exposed to a little bit. Was that something that
I don't
am
think
I
there
on?
was
Am
a
I
ton of
on?
that.
What's that?
I don't think there was a ton of that. I mean, I think that depending on the situation,
Yeah,
depending on what era that it was, like with Mr. Bad Example,
yeah,
Dad basically said, "I don't know what they want from me." I gave him a Warren Zevon record. I got together with Waddy. We did a Warren Zevon record. If that's not going to work, then I don't know what the fuck to tell you. And with like Bad Luck Streak and the Envoy, it's not like he went into like strictly piccolo music. He tried to make a record that just wasn't hitting. Now, if his sobriety took the kind of craziness out of some of the music or supposedly felt like it did, that could be part of it. And then he had to kind of reapproach in a different way. But like Sentimental Hygiene was Andy Slater and my dad and Andy really just trying to revive this guy's career, this guy that he owed a lot to as well.
yeah.
And and so they tried to make it the best, but I I can't see labels really trying to say, can you do this? I think that dad was putting enough pressure on him to kind of do that. And then like later on, like the last three records with Artemis, I don't think that was the deal. And I think the songs that kind of rose to the top just kind of rose to the top by listening to the album and
Hmm.
saying, wow, like don't let us get sick and my shit's fucked up. And some of these songs are kind of standout songs that'll perform well.
Yeah.
So they just wanted to do what was best to get him exposure, as opposed to trying to change him to get more exposure. I think he knew better than to try to do something to get himself popped up into the mainstream.
Back in the day, around the time that he got sick, Paul Shaffer and the band were the house band for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was talked a lot about on Letterman because, Paul and the band would have to go and they'd be rehearsing for it and they would talk about it on the show. And actually, two of the times that I went and saw the show were right after the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Dave would lament and get all mad that Paul and the band weren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because of that. So obviously there was talk of it around that time, and I'm curious. Did your dad pay attention to that stuff? There's a part of me that wonders if he just didn't give a damn at all and didn't even, it didn't pay it any mind whatsoever. And I'm curious as to how do you think he would feel about this announcement, the upcoming presentation, and if he would have a wish for how it would be set up.
Well, I think the problem is that a lot of people look at it very black or white.
Yep.
A lot of people think because he wasn't such a commercial artist that he was like an outlaw, and he wasn't. He just had to do what he had to do. I mean, his style, his writing, and everything else comes from within him and things like that. But he wasn't like this just industry commercial success hating kind of guy. I think that he had some bitterness about not having moved forward further than he would like to in his career, be able to like live a better life or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he went out to intentionally do that at all. So did he pay attention to it? I would assume at some point he'd see who was nominated and maybe he'd have an opinion about it. Did he make sure to sit and watch the ceremonies on TV? Probably not.
Yeah.
Did he watch the Grammys? I don't think so. Would he be happy that he
Okay.
won too? Yes.
The picture that I have always had of him in the decades that that's exactly accurate still to that picture that I as an observer had. The outlaw statement. I love that you said outlaw. See, I grew up in the world of quote unquote alternative music, and that was my and I think we're similar in that regard. I kind of viewed Warren a little bit the way that Pearl Jam kind of would lift up Neil Young, kind of a thing. I kind of viewed him as the guy who really didn't care. I mean, outlaw maybe, but the guy who just cared about what he cared about and had no bones about telling you about it. And you know what, I'm going to make you. But it's, as opposed to Neil Young, who went in his Neil Young style. The Warren Zevon style was also, and isn't this funny? And isn't this ironic, perhaps even a little bit more? And I viewed him as kind of an alternative inspiration to maybe other groups that were out there or people who had been lucky enough to find him. Is that would you say that that's?
Well, I mean, he didn't. I don't think he ever compromised his work. So the music that came out of him was the music that came out of him.
Yeah.
Even something like Leave My Monkey Alone, which may not like register correctly in the Paul Abdul directed video, might seem off. But again, I don't think that I never got any kind of impression that was something that was forced on him.
Yeah.
He liked to try different things. He liked to try ideas. But I think that there just became a point where he wasn't trying to change his music to get somewhere. So that, I mean, you can see that as outlaw, or you can see it as like, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you kind of try to create your own sound and you're Liz Phair, and then sometimes you create it and you're PJ Harvey. People that don't compromise, that kind of get to different, you never know when somebody's going to grab on to that person.
Yeah.
I mean, Alanis Morissette, I don't think I'd consider like the most alternative artist, but I certainly didn't think that she was going to end up being like almost legendary to the point where even my daughter's generation calls her mother, which I think is a really ghastly trend. Calling people like mother and father. Anyway, But
Tell her to watch Too Hot. I'm a Canadian. Alanis came up. I watched Alanis, and she was Alanis at first. Tell her to watch the video for Too Hot, and then see if she's still going to call her mother or not.
well, she
So
doesn't. She will kill me. She does not. I think her generation. She's got her own specific. She's
I
got
feel
her Billie Eilishes and her like
yeah.
kind of more alternative. She likes some pretty decent stuff, I would say.
Speaking of Billie Eilish, and I want to get back, I'm going to get back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but just as an aside here, there are some artists who are of today's generation, my kids and soon to be my grandkid, she's already getting into music as well. And I'm grateful for them, the ones, I just pray to God that they like cool things because they're going to introduce me because my wall is very high. For a new artist to get over that wall and get incorporated in what I consider to be very personal, personal things to me as my music is that Billie Eilish has gotten over the wall. One of the reasons that she got over the wall was because she did a My Next Guest with Dave
Yeah.
and she did a long form, and the long form, it was wonderful, and it kind of opened a door for me a little bit to kind of go, okay, let's see what these kids are looking. Oh my God, yeah, this is okay, and it really hit me. And this is just an observation, and I'm going to ask a little bit more about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame after this. But God damn, I wish Warren could be on an episode of My Next Guest with David Letterman.
Yeah, that'd be pretty wild. But I mean, he almost did the pilot, if you think about it. I mean, that last show that he did
Yep.
was pretty in depth. So I think we kind of got a taste of what it would have been like.
There's a quote from that show that I loved. He said, I lived like Jim Morrison, but ended up living another 30 years. And,
Yeah.
I was going to save it for a little bit later into the episode. We can get back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in a second, but if people want to sift through it, they can sift through it. It's our show. But that quote, did you see much of that in your life, or was that the living like Jim Morrison more anecdotal in your
Oh,
mind?
I saw very, very little of that. My mom wasn't interested in that part of my dad. So once that really started creeping in, she was done.
Yeah.
And then once he kind of got into that world, getting into it was as difficult as like a fan would have had trying to get in touch with him and stuff like that. It's pretty sad.
Hmm.
I would see him occasionally. I, I, the only memory I have, two memories of him, like no doubt intoxicated.
Mm-hmm.
And one time it was like one of my first memories. I don't know how I was too young to be able to have a memory, but somehow I do. Like maybe it was three, of he and my mom just yelling at each other.
Mm.
That's all I can really remember. Like we lived on Beechwood. I kind of remember that place, but not very much.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one was in probably 78. He was playing at the Universal Amphitheater, opening for Linda. And my grandmother bought tickets and she took me, and then she took me down to the backstage and was literally saying, like, this is his son. Can he come in? And they were just like, didn't know what to do. And Crystal saw me and let me in. And they took me to see Dad. I don't, you know how your kid memories, God knows what was real. But I just remember like kind of being in a small room and sitting across from him. And even at that age, just going, wow, this guy is fucking gone.
Wow.
Like couldn't really communicate. And I think we talked for a second and then he went off to a limo and went away.
Yeah.
And then it was really kind of hit and miss Christmassy things, stuff like that until in, I guess, Adam, when did Envoy come out? Or no, when did Bad Luck come out?
Envoy was 82. Bad Luck Streak was 80.
It was 80. Okay, yeah. So I think it was right after Bad Luck Streak into recording the Envoy, and he was getting sober, and I went with him to Cedar Sinai supported him with some group therapy things, all that stuff that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much from that time on, the most I got subjected to were moods, which were aplenty.
Oh, I can imagine.
But the thing that you have, and I've had my own struggles, and it's been a while now, but I know from my experience that, and growing up with, I mean, I had other exposure. I had a grandmother who was really angry drunk. Anyway, the thing when you grow up around that is with a sober person is it doesn't matter what mood they're in or what pain in the ass they're in or whatever else. The fact that you just know that they're sober
Mm-hmm.
is something very comforting. Because from a certain point on, I think he had slips and things like that, but they really didn't appear to me. When I saw that, I just knew he was there.
Yeah.
And so that's what I really retained the most of is just the fact that it could be cranky there, it could be silly there, it could be whatever it was there, but he was always there and I could rely on that.
Yeah. It wasn't
So
quicksand. You were on solid
Yeah,
ground
exactly.
at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh, I did you talk about it later on in life? Like later on in life, would he ever refer back to those days? Would you ever reference it or go through it, or was it one of those things once you went through it, that was kind of it?
We didn't talk about it a lot. It's interesting kind of, like I said, I think it's probably been about 5 years that I've been sober. I was a different kind of alcoholic than he was. I was just kind of self-medicating all the time. I wasn't the fall down party guy.
Yep.
But there was a few times where after a while your brain just starts to go a little whacked out. You can only kind of rolling brown for so long. And I used to notice how whenever he'd reference him being drunk or hear a recording of himself or something, it was very uncomfortable. He did not want to think about that. And now being in this position, I totally get it. I don't want to hear a recording of myself, even if nobody can tell. I can tell. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see pictures. I don't want to, shame is a real thing, and you can get rid of it to overcome, but it still means that you don't want to see postcards,
Yeah.
and I think that he just really didn't love the fact that he had that period of his life and didn't think it was cute.
Very, very, very well said. And I really appreciate you, the vulnerability you're bringing to this here. I appreciate that. It just strikes me that I don't think I realized that he got sober around the same time Dave did, and
Oh, there you go.
I can imagine anytime you're an artist and you have a body of work that's out there, the before and the after effect and how that can affect you when it comes to that. I'm very, very grateful that you're on the other side of it. And of course, extremely grateful that he got to the other side of it and was able to talk about it and able to bring it. I'm grateful that you're able to talk about it. There's going to be someone who listens to those words and they're going to put a filter over and apply it to their life, and they're going to see if it matches or not. And perhaps that might start a change. So I can definitely understand where that vulnerability does exist, but that doesn't take the pain away when you talk about those things. So thank you very, very, very much for talking about that. That final show again, I don't know what it's going to look like with the Hall of Fame package, what that will look like and how much time they're going to give to it, and if there will be, extras, DVD extras, whatever you want to call it, on the side as well. But that final show, that final late show, was such a powerful night. To this day, I mean, I listened to the interview. I'm so grateful for the official Letterman channel actually putting out the whole show. They put the whole thing out on their YouTube channel, so people can go and watch it. I highly recommend it. The interview itself,
I've seen it.
It's so good. You said you've never what is that?
No,
what?
I said I've seen it. When you said I highly recommend it.
Yeah. So for our audience, please go and watch it. Please, go see it and whatnot. I assume clips from it will be used at the Hall of Fame. How much do you have to do with what is happening, what's the presentation is going to be? Do you have a lot of input, and are you going to perform that night?
I know about things that are going to happen. I don't have any control over it. The
Okay.
people who are doing it are people that, when I was a publicist at Arista, that I used to work with. So I'm like, okay, I see what's happening. Nobody needs my input.
Okay.
So yeah, performing, I think so. I don't
Yeah.
want to say yes or no. I think it all kind of depends on what that performance looks like.
Yep.
Yeah,
More than one song?
don't
Medley?
know. Don't know.
Okay. All right.
Honestly, don't know yet.
Uh, oh, man, I don't even want to put you on the spot too much about that. If it was one, I mean, if it was one song, or if you had if it was going to be one song and there was a small list of what the contenders are, what do you think that they would be from your perspective? I'm super curious, and if we have to go offline to ask that question, I'm happy to do that too.
No, it's. I think that it's kind of artist dependent.
Oh yeah, of
And
course, yeah,
as far as it, I mean, for me, I think, uh, you know, if Werewolves has to be involved, I hope it's in a medley, just for his sake.
yep,
Um, but um, but yeah, I mean, look, again, everything at this point is gravy, so
yeah.
I don't, I'm not too concerned, or I think it'll be pretty great. I think those guys do a pretty good job.
Safe to say it probably won't be Adam Sandler performing it, but um,
I love Adam, so he can if he wants to.
okay, so okay, let's go to that. The tribute album. Interesting artists on that tribute album. Adam Sandler performing Werewolves in London. That wasn't tongue in cheek, everybody. If you haven't heard it, go get the tribute album. Go onto your streaming service and get that tribute album. There's some, oh my God, there's some beautiful moments on that.
Yeah,
that
Waddy
tribute
was
album.
playing with him, and I was like, this will be great. You can try to make a tribute record where, we're going to make every song the best, top the original, this and that, or you can make a tribute record that's just vastly different and unique. And it's just what it felt like would be more fun. Like to get the Pixies to do Ain't That Pretty at All. It's like, yeah,
Oh, good.
that works.
Yeah, so good. Also very interesting. And I mean, let's get to this now. The idea you playing with the Wallflowers, interesting. You know, yourself and Jacob Dylan having this very surreal perspective in life. With your respective dads doing stuff, and then having Bob do a tribute on the album as well,
Yeah.
which I thought was really, really interesting. Where did you and Jacob connect? How did that happen?
Oh God. I have like basically the same circle of friends since high school. We were in a band called The Imposters, and um, we're all kind of the same age. And we were playing shows with the Apples, which was Jake's band
Right.
before the Wallflowers. So we've never like been pals, but we've kind of been in the same kind of rooms and acknowledged, hey, we both have
Yeah.
similar situations, just throughout the years. And then my dad's manager, Andy, manages them. And so it's just kind of one of those things that just came together.
Really cool.
Yeah.
I love symmetry. I love the circles and things like that. Actually, I want to go to another one here too. So I'm a gigantic Nine Inch Nails fan. They're one of my core memory bands. I've just like seen them more than 10 times, met Trent a couple of times. I'm far down the rabbit hole when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So at some point, Johnny Cash's version of Hurt comes out, and I'm just like, oh, and I'm pulling my hair out because that you see the video, Mark Romanek did the video, and it's just this, oh my God, cover.
Yeah. I think Trent said that song's no longer mine.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have his
And I
quote.
mean, just whoa. Okay. Last year, Willie Nelson covers Keep Me in Your Heart. And I heard it, and it was the same feeling that I felt when Johnny covered Hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, I've listened to Keep Me in Your Heart probably, I don't know, probably 30, 40 times since my dad passed. And I mean, that song, oh, I get emotional right now, even just thinking about it. It is just, it's powerful. That song lives inside me.
Yeah.
And to hear Willie and his version of it, that sort of thing, I needed to talk to you about that today, just because there are these circles and whatnot. How did that come about? Are you part of that? Like, are you a gatekeeper
No,
when it comes to
I
stuff like
had,
that?
well, here's the thing is that anybody can cover a song.
Yes.
So in that situation, they don't need any kind of prior permission.
Right.
I didn't know about it till I read that it was coming out. And obviously I was completely as thrilled as you could possibly be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's Willie, like when I was saying earlier about my mom exposing me to music, I mean, Willie and the Highwaymen and that kind of stuff, also that kind of, the cool edge country, George Jones and that stuff. So, I mean, Willie's a god. There's just nobody higher.
And has anybody from you or your camp or anybody talked to him about that, where the reasoning for it and how it came about from Willie's side, or is it just one of those things that this is in the world and I'm very grateful it's in the world and I don't want to kind of mess with it?
Well, I'm grateful it's in the world. Don't really have any kind of way to even contact him, but if I ever do get to meet him, I have an in, which is fantastic.
You sure do. You sure do.
But yeah, I just, that's one of those things that I went, that's another kind of bonus. Didn't have to lift a finger, there's no negotiating or nuancing. It just suddenly it was there, like this gift.
Right. I have a bunch of other potpourri questions here for you. You have a little bit more time here for me?
I do.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that Adam's talked on this show in fairly broad strokes. I mean, certainly hasn't talked about things he's, not supposed to, or things that, may happen, but we don't want to get people's hopes up too much. But there's some good stuff that's coming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I cannot.
Look at that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The YouTube audience get to see a beautiful, beautiful vinyl box set right there. And if you're on the Apple or the Spotify and you're just listening, take a look at that. That's gorgeous. You made that there, Adam?
That box set was my baby for
yeah,
a couple
it really
months.
Was.
Let's talk about the contents of it.
Me?
Well, let me
Or
first
Jordan?
just say
Jordan
that,
first.
that Adam has been such a crucial part of my dad's legacy and what I've been able to do. And I mean, there aren't enough words to express how much his partnership in doing this has meant to me. It's really been insane. I still have the letter that he sent me, like the very kind of formal letter with a printout of some of the work he's done. And I was just like, wait, you want to run the website? Okay, because I can't fucking stand doing this. Because every time I start getting something right, they move into another language, and now it's Flash, and now it's this, and I'd had enough. But what I wasn't expecting was that how much that we just kind of go digging into these things, and also the organizational skills, and the attention to detail, which I completely lack, are so essential. So, I mean, really, Adam deserves a lot of credit for so much that he's done and doing. And that box set was, like I said, it's his baby. And when you look through it, I can just point to everything down to the proofreading, which nobody else caught.
Yeah. I just want to throw out there for those who are, under under 35, maybe even under 40. I don't even know. If you're a music fan growing up in the time that the three of us, an entire generation grew up in, there was something special when your favorite artist or an artist that you admire came out with a box set that was done correctly, and just the little jewels and rarities and things like that. I was that guy who would go and look for singles that had rare B-sides and things like that for the bands that I loved. Even talking to Adam about some of the stuff that exists, some of the stuff that's out there, and then cutting through the red tape of rights and things like that to be able to release some of these things, but then also not just to release it onto I say this salaciously a little bit, but like an MP3 low quality type format, as opposed to let's do it right, let's do it with the right audio, let's do it with the right art. And what you just showed me there, that box set, it gave me chills. It made me go back to reliving when a beautiful box set would come out, and that's the kind of love. My wife cooks with love, and you can taste it in the food. Adam,
Yeah.
you design things with love, and boy, is it evident. The box that you just showed me, what's it called, and what are some of the little rarities that are going to be on it?
Well, before I get into that, let me kind of, I don't want to hijack Jordan's interview, but I'm going to hijack it for a moment.
Oh, please do.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate what Jordan said, because it's definitely tenfold back at him. It's a situation you go through life, and you have a job, and it's a job, and it pays the bills, and you're appreciated at that job, but it's not a passion, right? It's kind of so you can have nice things, and your kids can have nice things, and your wife can live well, and you can live well. And it's really rewarding to be able to have a creative outlet. And to your point, Mike, I hate when things are half-assed. I hate to spend money on something or get something that you're so excited about,
Yeah.
and then you open it up and it's wrong. And maybe it doesn't matter to the average buyer or whatever, but if it's something you're really into, when it's done incorrectly, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. And someone like Jordan's father's art, God, that sounds really pretentious, but you want it to be done well because it
Yes.
deserves it. Not only for myself, which that's a lot of what I'm doing it for. I want it right for me. I want to be proud of that thing, but it means a lot to people, and hopefully it can mean something in the future to people. And if this does well, which it has done well, it opens the door for other things. And I think the great thing is the team we work with Rhino on that particular box set is
Yep.
very open to input, is very open to things being done correctly. It's nice. So I will show you the box set.
I think, Adam, once you caught the entire wrong record on a test pressing,
Yeah.
that they went, well, maybe we'll just take his word for it from here on out.
Yeah. When they sent the first sample artwork back of the albums, some of the fonts weren't correct, and they're early proofs. They're not finals.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, this is the font you need. This is the color you need. This is the spacing between the fonts. And then the quality of some of the pictures weren't great. So we discovered the original photograph for Mutineer. We'll put that up on the website soon. But I'm sure Jordan hates me. Every time I call him or text him, it's work for him. He has to go digging, and we found it.
But I always
test
find good things when I dig. So
Yeah.
yeah, the test pressing thing was interesting because it was for Mr. Bad Example, and the original stereo master, the track listing is different than what was actually released. So when they did the test pressings, the whole album was jumbled, and all the artwork was already printed and all that stuff. So we had to do a new pressing to make sure it was
What?
correct.
Would this
Yep.
be classified as a remaster then because of that?
It is a remaster. Yeah.
Wow.
yeah,
So
I
this
mean,
is
not because
Warren's-
of that, but
Yeah, but it is
in
a
the process of doing this. If we can get the master, we'll get the master.
Look at that.
So
Oh,
it's good stuff.
So 3 album set.
3 album set, and it was a limited edition for Record Store Day. I think it was like 2,200 copies or whatever, and
Oh, it's a
sold out.
slipcase. It's a slipcase.
It's a slipcase.
Oh, I
yeah.
love a slipcase. That's fantastic.
And
Yep.
another thing to thank Jordan for, we were on a call with the folks at Rhino, and they said we'd like to do like an 8-page book that goes with it, and here's the book.
Yep.
And they asked Jordan, what journals would you like to write the story that goes inside of it? And Jordan said, I want Adam. Which, I mean, you could have had anyone in the world do it, from Rolling Stone or anything, but
Yep.
it was awesome. I got the opportunity to do something like that, and it means a lot to be able to do that. But then I realized I had a whole lot more work to do, so I wasn't as pumped. But
Careful what you wish for.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But it's also the drive to make sure it's done right. For fans, for the people that buy it, so there's value to it, and just for legacy. So we're hoping to do more, and we're in the process of hopefully doing more.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know how much we can talk about that, Jordan, but we're doing more.
we can't, but I mean, there'll be some things. Will there be all the things that we want? Now that remains to be seen, but
Yep.
we're trying.
Oh, there we go. Look at
Yeah.
that. Oh.
That might be something we're looking at. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Live recordings, rarities, things like that. Is this yeah, we can't talk
Well,
about it. All right.
no. I mean, I'll
We-
just talk about it in the sense that there's some live stuff that
Yep.
I think in some form or another they're gonna make their way out there. That are overdue. On the rarities, I think that I can pretty safely say, unless there's another discovery, we've kind of know everything that exists.
Yep.
There might be a few more cassette tapes to go through, but we had, I don't know, a few hundred cassettes digitized and organized, and it's all there. So, and some of them have incredible stuff on them
Mhm.
that I don't know if fits into a commercial release, but they're certainly fascinating. So there might be some way to try to figure out where that's like conversations with Dad and Jackson
Yep.
before the first album had been released, and demos, and you can see the way a song progresses, but at the same time, I don't know if every single version of that song. So I don't know, there might be some format where you can look at a song and play some clips from each version of it, and like maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's something like that.
Took the words right out of my mouth. That sounds like a deep dive podcast to me.
Yeah, so I'd like it to find its way out there. I'm a Costello guy, so I spent thousands of dollars because the man never met a take he didn't like, and his process, which I am completely foreign to me, is like to completely do a song, record it, and then put out a completely different version of it, and then another completely different version of it.
Yep.
So I appreciated that what he was releasing merited being put out because you were almost hearing a different song. I don't want to get to a point where I've released 8 versions of the same song. You know, I thought Preludes really gave you a taste of what those songs felt like early on. And I was really into those Beatles bootlegs when they first came out.
Yep.
Even instrumentals and false takes and stuff like that. And one of Dad's co-workers, I'll say, was kind of miffed at the idea of putting it out. And then I brought up those Beatles records and like, did you listen to those? It's like, yeah. It's like, well, it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of fun to hear Werewolves of London or another song sound so completely different.
Yep.
And knowing that at least you can hear that it was this process where they went through almost every rhythm section in town until, you know, they got the guys from Fleetwood Mac to finally get it when I don't think they even had it yet.
Yep.
And those kind of things are and there's a really outrageous version of Werewolves that I think Adam will agree eventually has to find its way. What do we call it? The Vincent Price
Yeah, that's right.
version?
I think whenever I suggest things, I kind of like it to be tidy in the fact that let's dive into a single project. So an album, let's say. And my thought would be it would be great to have the album as is. I think an alternative version to go with it, made of outtakes and maybe instrumentals, like Jordan said.
Yep.
But then it gets into the thing of what should that sound like? Because you don't want it to sound just like the album, but at the same time, you don't want it to be less than either.
Yes.
So it's hard. I can say I've listened to hours and hours and hours and hours of tapes doing that. And kind of your dream is, man, I would love to hear everything until you
Yes.
have to hear everything. You realize, oh, I don't want to hear everything because, you
Yeah.
know, Jordan's dad worked hard
Yes. You want
and
the curated everything.
the curated everything. That's a great description of it
Yep.
because, you know, what Jordan said earlier is his dad didn't compromise with his music. He did work hard. And there are such minute differences between takes of a song that you really have to listen closely and
Hmm.
see what that
Yeah.
process is to get to the end result. So I think ideally, if we were to do, maybe not ideally for everyone, what I would think would be ideally would be box sets of albums,
Yep.
one disc of the album, one disc of outtakes, and then a live component that comes with it. And that may not be feasible for all the releases, and it may not be feasible for any of the releases, but I think that is what I would push forward, because I think that's pretty common amongst other bands and artists, and it kind of has a little bit of everything. You also want to, I don't think you want to dilute the main catalog either. I think when you look at David Bowie's legacy after he passed away,
Hmm.
my God, it's it's a jumbled mess. I think that kind of happens with the Beach Boys a little bit.
Hmm.
So it's a tidy way of, let's say you can't release a concert from 1980 because maybe it isn't, I won't say on par, but let's say it's not proper to go with the rest of the um, catalog. It can go along with the album um, that it was promoting. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you're
kind
going
of
to have,
putting it behind an album keeps the
right,
discography from inflating. It's
right,
just this is the version that has some extra stuff if you want to go that route.
right,
There's
Yeah.
not like every live album in between.
right. You don't want 10 live albums that are
Yeah.
5 years apart because
It's
then
been
it
an
gets a
interesting
little,
evolution when it came to that because I know growing up I was that kid like Jordan listening to you talk about the idea of the evolution. I would go. I had a route from where I am in Kelowna, British Columbia. I would go down to Seattle. I would go over to Spokane, Washington. I'd go up to Vancouver. Sometimes I'd go out to Edmonton, Alberta. And I had a Rolodex because there was no internet back then. A Rolodex of record shops or CD shops I would go to, and I learned very very quickly. You don't ask for bootlegs. You say, "Hey, do you have any live recordings?" That's the way to do it. Because if you ask for
Yeah.
bootlegs, they're like, "Hey, get away!" Because it was a like it was an underground thing. Like to ask for these things, but I was that guy. Any band that I
Yeah.
really, really loved, I wanted that stuff like crazy. Now I look, and we just had the is it the 20-year whatever anniversary of Radiohead, Kid A and Amnesiac, and they released this amazing deluxe curated though version that has so many extras and so many of the evolutions of so many of the songs on that those two albums that came out within very 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 short time of each other. And I think that's the sweet spot. I think it is the idea of the curated everything, and the fact that you guys are thinking about this and talking about this, I think will make every Warren Zevon enthusiast out there very very excited. That's great news. It's fantastic news. I do have a couple other little things I'd like to talk about. The first one actually not so little. Let's talk a little bit about you are would you say you're an advocate, Jordan, when it comes to conditions due to asbestos and whatnot? Are you an advocate for that? And can we talk a little bit about events and things that might
I'm
be
the
happening?
yeah, I'm the national spokesperson for the Asbestos Disease Awareness Organization,
Wow.
and I've been with them for a long time. I don't know the exact amount. I think it's been, oh, I don't want to think about how long it's been.
It's been a journey.
It's been a journey and it's been amazing. And the main it's not the late night commercials for who to sue and that kind of thing. That's their own thing. We've been trying to get a ban bill put through asbestos. Everybody thinks it's banned. It's not banned. Obviously, they aren't shipping it over in pallets, but we found it in like makeup. We've found it.
Oh God.
We found it in duct tape. And the scary thing about finding it in duct tape, as somebody who's never really had much, well, I worked at the Matchel Sand Factory, but that's the only factory job I've ever had. And even then, I was the bookkeeper. But it's when it's airborne that it's really dangerous. So
Yes.
that's when the concept of pipes being wrapped with it, and you start hammering away at that pipe, and you're just all these particles. And I won't bore you with all of it. You can go to adao.us and find out more about it. But
Jordan, you
in
had
this
said
duct tape
some crayons too, right? That's
yeah,
what
the
hit home
kind
Good
for
of
me.
the
Lord.
crayon sets that they would give out at restaurants, those little
Oh
four
my
packs
God.
that you get for your kids.
Terrifying.
And
Yeah.
but with like the duct tape, I've when you're a kid, you don't know that you shouldn't wrap your cords in duct tape because it turns into a sticky mess and then it turns into a crispy mess, but that crispy mess is airborne. And so it wasn't all duct tape, but it was some stuff was coming from China and
Yep.
other places. And you'd be amazed at how difficult it is just to get just a straight out ban bill through. I mean, we've seen the government doesn't love getting things done. And
Wow.
yeah, so just getting the word out, all the people that were in 9/11, those buildings came down, those
Yep.
buildings were filled with asbestos. And the recent fires in Pasadena and Alton, it's like, it's just, it's really terrifying. And I'd see reporters uh, just kind of walking down the street in Pacific Palisades with no masks or anything on, and I'm just thinking like, you can't do that
Yeah.
because you can the tiniest little fiber, microscopic fiber, can just work its way down into your lungs, plant itself there, and 10 years later you got a problem. So yeah, it's not fun to talk about.
Yep.
It's not fun that it exists, but I'll do anything to support them because they've really been fighting a good fight for a long
What kind of
time.
stuff do you do? Are there events that you're a part of?
There's a convention. It's in New York, I think, this year, and I've always gone. Well, most of the time I've gone and performed. I think I
Yep.
called in sick once or twice over the last decade or so. Um, and then the next thing we're doing is we're doing a tribute concert on October 24th, and we're doing that at the United Theater on Broadway in LA.
Oh, wow.
And we're just kind of assembling the people that are going to play now, and with some other charitable causes. Part of that is going to go to ADAO. So I'm very
Fantastic.
excited
What was the
about
date
that.
on that again?
October 24th.
Oh, that's fantastic down in LA. I'm going to see if I can find a way to get down there for that. That's fantastic. I love hearing that. I love when artists can take their art and point it in the direction of things that make the world feel better and collaborate in that regard to doing that. And what a fantastic cause. One of the first real jobs I ever had over the summer was removing asbestos from our local university. And I mean, it was scary stuff back then. I mean, you know, we're in the 90s and you're in hazmat suits, and it was you know, you have to go through this class beforehand to realize the gravity of what it is that you're doing. And that's a fantastic cause, and I love what you said. It's not the front cover of every magazine cause, and those are the causes that I have found over my life that really are the things that need to be brought into the public attention. And so I'm
Yeah.
grateful that you're doing that. What do you think your dad liked doing better, writing or performing?
I think he liked watching bad TV. I think he liked watching Billy Bob movies. So I wouldn't say that he didn't like performing and he didn't. The first thing with writing that he told me, and I appreciated that he told me this, and I passed it on to my daughter who's writing songs, is that you don't really want to hear about how easy it is to write songs and this and that. And yeah, sometimes a song just like spits right out of you. I think people like to say that there's a song floating in the air and they just happen to grab it.
Yep.
Okay. But sometimes you have those moments where something just like comes out of you. But he said for the most part, it's really hard.
Yep.
And when he had to write, he'd sit down in his dining room with a typewriter, and there was crumbled up pieces of paper all over the floor, and it was hard. And it you know, it's everything is measured by what the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the hardest job in the world? No. But sitting there, focusing your brain and and trying to come up with something that feels good that you've done and you feel good with, that's not like that quick spot of inspiration when you initially write a song, but really completing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's work.
Yep.
And so I think that he was happy when that work was done. So I don't think he disliked. I think it was work. And I think performing, never heard him complain about how horrible it was, but
Right.
it was work.
I feel you.
So
Again, back to
I
the
thi-
job.
I
Back
think-
to the job.
Yeah.
The job comment. That makes a lot of sense. And I could see how that would be. He would be that type of writer. I mean, again, this is why I compare Warren and David Letterman a lot.
I was just going to say, if you asked Dave, what did you like better, the monologue or the interview? He'd say fishing. It's just,
Yep.
Hey, Jordan, let me ask you a question about
Yeah.
songwriting, if you don't mind, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm
Please.
not an artistic person. I'm not a songwriter. In terms of effort of writing a song, is most of the work done let's say time-wise? Is it quick getting the basic structure of what a song is? Is that quick? And then the actual execution of it, is that what takes the most
It's-
time?
and I'll give John Mayer credit because I heard him in an interview say this, if when you start writing a song, get as much as you can out. Like, don't do like a little voice memo and then go watch TV. Like, grab onto that second, because when you write a song and you hear it the same way that like somebody else can hear it and go, "Hey, I like that," you're having that same experience. And the more you feed off of that initial energy, the more that you can get out of it, because then the rest of it is a fucking nightmare. I know for me, I've got plenty of songs that I have recorded over the years that are just like a verse and a chorus, and I loved them, and I listened to that over and over again. And then when it came to writing this second or third verse, it's like, wait a minute, I said everything already. Like, this song to me exists in a verse and a chorus, and everything else I'm going to add on to it now is like, if somebody asked you to write, not that I'm writing these songs, but if somebody asked you to write like another verse to Stairway to Heaven,
Right.
you're like, I can't do that.
How do you- yeah.
Those are the words. Like,
Yep.
and then we see each other. Like, everything's going to sound wrong.
So
So to get away from, to get as much as you can initially, and then stop yourself from feasting on that small bit, and just push yourself to get the rest of it done, even if you end up having to rewrite it.
Mike, if you don't mind, I have a follow-up.
Please.
So with a song like Studebaker for your dad,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have the original tape that's on Preludes, which has a very specific structure. It's very inspired. There's some intricacies. And then as I've heard outtakes past that,
Mhm.
the song loses steam. It kind of isn't what it was before. Is that
Yeah.
kind of an example of that?
It's a little different in the fact that it was a finished song. This is more about like the actual writing process. But I think the funny thing about that song is that I had that first recording of it, and I think I would probably guess it's one of the first. It's definitely the first in existence. When he recorded some songs for my grandma. I don't even know what the circumstance was, and it's just perfect. And then every time I heard it, and keep in mind, I've had that song since like I was 4 or 5. I don't
Wow.
even know how that cassette tape managed to stay alive long enough for me to digitize it. And so it's all I knew of that song. Then after he passed away, and I started, and I'm sure I brought it up, and sometimes I must have brought it up, and he's like, it doesn't work. And then, as Adam can attest, you hear the versions, and then something's missing. There's something missing. There's some kind of like character about it. There's some, like, the riff isn't the same, or the way that it's strange how it got away. And even there's a version that he did that was actually kind of Costello-esque in how different it is. There's a totally kind of up-tempo, full band version of it that is just like Studebaker keeps on breaking down again.
Oh my God.
And it just doesn't have the swing to it. But I think it's a lot like Werewolves in the sense that there was a magic that they had to find in the playing. And with this song, there was a magic in that initial delivery of my dad really sounding like he was singing about his broken down car. And I think once he got older, that person didn't really exist anymore. And he didn't have that reference to hear it and say, or I'm sure even if I tried, he would have been like, great. But it's just, it was kind of this magical gem that, that found its way and I got lucky. I think that another song, is it, there's two versions of the song I'm trying to, Steady Rain, is that the one that ended up being?
That's on Preludes, I believe.
Yeah. So, Steady Rain is a song that I think is a classic, and I've actually seen that on Spotify. It's one of the more played songs, and
It was featured in a TV show in the last couple of years, and I can't for the life of me think of what the TV show was.
it was Better Things.
Better Things. There it is.
Yeah. And I talked to Pamela Adlong, and she was just saying like Adlon, not long, getting a little punchy. I talked to Pam Adlon, and she was talking about how much she loves that song and what a magic song it is, and everything. And that was Warm Rain for a little while. It's a very cool version of that is Warm Rain, and then Steady Rain. And yeah, I think it's a really great song. And that version was able to get out there, so it didn't need to be done. But Studebaker's just another kind of example where it just didn't. And I wish there were 100 more of those that I could describe. But luckily, Preludes kind of put those out there for people to hear, and that's why I'm very, very proud of that record.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that song. I love your version of that song, Jordan. I just flat out say that it's so good. It's so good.
I had some great help, like getting Waddy to come back, getting Lindley to play on it, getting Jake to sing those kind of perfect vocals, harmonies, and Kim Shattuck, who sang this beautiful kind of high, almost country part in the background. I miss her a lot. She was amazing. So
how satisfying was that for you to take that seed and then you kind of made it a finished
it was
product?
so
Is the right word,
satisfying because I knew it was there, and it pretty much came out exactly. I would do another vocal pass if I could, but that's okay. But I knew that that Evan, our producer, and we went into Jackson's studio, and everybody who played on it got the memo. And so I knew that this could be a perfect lost Warren Zevon song. And so it was very satisfying to get, and very satisfying that people liked it, because it was always like my own private little song for so long. And to know that I was right, like there was a reason I listened to that damn cassette over and over again. That song had something.
One of my very favorite episodes of Larry Sanders all time is the one that your dad was in. And I mean,
that was great.
like the idea of that show, how it blurs the idea of reality and fiction. And I mean, that's like, it's an industry now, but back then it was so groundbreaking. And to have Warren, who has this into the late night world, be part of that, a tremendous piece of work that was done there. I was just curious if you had any comments or on that.
Well, I mean, I loved that show. I think anybody who's a fan of comedy loved that show. And So I think he just had a good time. I think he really liked to be able to do something like that. He did an episode of Suddenly Susan and
Okay.
yeah, he was thrilled to be able to have fun with it. And I still have his script from it and his picture with Gary. And so yeah, he that was a highlight moment for him.
The look on his face when Gary from the desk looks at him to get him to play Werewolves from London. Just the look on his face.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah, he was really, really excited about having done that.
Was Werewolves like, I mean, there's a lot of artists out there who they're obliged to play the thing that got them to the dance until the end of the dance and they start to resent the song. Was that ever something that was part of Warren's deal or no problem at all? Werewolves of London just being known for that song, no problem.
I think that no, he wasn't going to look that song, "The Gift Horse in the Mouth." He wasn't going to do that. I think that nobody has the ability to play anything or do anything that many times and not have some kind of like, here we go. But
Groundhog Day. Yep.
yeah, but he knew that an audience was going to love it,
Yeah.
and he knew that it was a big song. So he never. I mean, I think he loved that joke, and I think it was an easy joke to make.
Yeah.
I at his funeral, I made a mock phone call to him because I just kind of replicated these conversations that we used to have because everything was like kind of in code.
Yeah.
He was Johnny Pop and I was Johnny Son, and on and on. So I told him we're having a great time. We weeded out the shit touchers and everything is great. And just look on the bright side, you'll never have to play Werewolves again. So I think it's just kind of, I don't think there was like a true, like, bile that rose from the back of his throat when he had
No.
to sing it, but I'm sure it had gotten old
Yeah.
to an
It's
extent.
not like Radiohead denouncing Creep and not
That-
playing it.
yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
There's a
I
good
don't think-
example of it going to that extreme, right? That's a great example of it. And the joke in the Sanders show about it, brought it to that, but it did seem tongue in cheek. And
One of my personal life highlights was when he did fill in for Paul. Radiohead were on, and I got to sit in that empty theater and watch him sound check.
yeah,
And then I went up
that's-
to my dad's dressing room and saw Tom, like, just kind of looking like a baby bird staring at the alley through the window. It's like,
So
hey, man.
your dad loved Radiohead. Did he interact with them at all during that
Uh,
show?
I don't know what kind of interaction they might have had, but yeah, I mean, they seem nice. I think I don't really. The thing about that show too is that it's weird how it's set up.
Mhm.
So you'll kind of like you can run into people at odd times, but it's not like a very communal thing. Like there's a green room, but nobody's really chilling out in there. It's just like this little tiny room you go on right before. But yeah, so just going up and down those back stairs and just seeing him kind of looking out the window is a trip. And through all the time that that I was there, I only saw Dave off camera once.
Yep.
And that was backstage along with Richard Lewis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was very brief.
Yeah.
And he had all his makeup on, his little thing stuck in his, and I was just like nervous as hell. But
Yeah.
Did you have any fun hallway interactions during the show with other guests?
Well, Biff was always cool.
Yeah, right on.
And the I can't remember her name, and I think she passed away. The makeup
Michelle.
artist, Michelle, right?
Yeah.
Michelle was fantastic and had her dog in the makeup room. And then my big moment when I did Jokes on Me,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a few of my friends sitting around me, and I'm kind of, I get nervous, but not in like like nail biting pacing way. I get nervous in like this complete system overload kind of way. Like where it's just like, okay, so I'm about to do something so intensely frightening that it just kind of becomes like I just kind of like steady out. And so I'm just sitting there and I'm kind of like half talking to everybody and then uh Jonathan Siegel, right? What am I saying his name wrong?
Who are we talking about here? Like that's
Steven Seagal?
No, no, no. From I Love You, Man, and
oh, Jason Segel.
Jason, it is Jason Segel.
Yeah, Jason Segel. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. You
Forgetting
guys
Sarah
made me look
Marshall.
stupid. He like he was on the show along with Amy Poehler,
Oh,
and
wow.
he walked up to my dressing room door and was like, "Hey," and I just didn't even like. I should have gone like, "Hey, big fan. These are my friends," and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And then he like walked away, and I ran out to say something later, and he was on the phone. I was like, "God, that sucked." But I mean, it's such a that show, and I'm sure other shows like it, but maybe that show especially because it was like the last of the old school
Yes.
stuff. I think that now everything's kind of modernized and it's not
Plastic.
as funky as it used to be.
Yep.
Um, it really felt like a stationary traveling sideshow. Like everything was so bim bam boom. This is what we're
Yep.
doing. This is how we're going. This is our second home.
Yep.
My
And they're
sister
a
and I,
family.
and they're a family. And my
Yep.
sister and I hung out in Paul's dressing room for a while because they had a piano there, and we were just kind of talking and looking around. It was like, this is nuts. It was a
Yep.
mess, and it was just like a lived-in
Yep.
work work desk in the form of a room with a piano. So that always made it feel very cozy. And I really got excited about having the privilege of being behind the scenes at that place. That was like the most fun for me. More the going on the show is incredible and it's
Sure.
kind of over in a flash. But the being behind the scenes and seeing how everything works and feeling like you're in this family for that day, that's just great.
Um, we've had multiple members of the band on this show, and every single one, the first time they're on, I ask about your dad, and more than a couple have, after all these years, our show is only 3 years old. After all these years, still well up with emotion, and how special a relationship that was there. It must have been really cool having them back you up
Oh
the
yeah.
times that you went there, and just that must have been a really, really cool experience as well, having the world's most dangerous band or the CBS Orchestra, whichever name you want to give them, backing you
It's
up.
there's nothing like it at
Yeah.
all. When I did Searching for a Heart,
Yeah.
there was very much kind of deer in headlights, and I was like calling the chords, and he's asking this chord, and I say I think it's this chord, and I just heard like Jordan, you're killing me, and I just got down on one knee, and I'm like, I'm sorry, and I felt his hand on my head, and I'm like, okay, it's all right. And then the second time, I went with Jordan Summers, who I've known since the first day of high school and has co-written almost everything I've done. Um, he came with me because he had to, and he plays keyboards. And just he and Paul back to back, and we're trying to kind of explain the notes to him and where these things happen. And that was very surreal. Like we definitely had the moment where we looked at each other like, this is pretty weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. They're so professional and nice, and they knew they had a good gig, and they were amazing at what they did. So
Yeah.
all they had to do at that point was make you comfortable, and they did.
The sideshow, the stationary sideshow, is such a lovely description that's never been expressed quite that way on this show, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean that's been the fun part for me too, is getting to know that there are members of the family who have said that to me, welcome to the family, and it feels like that. That's what that's what it feels like, and you got a chance to really go behind the curtain and be part of a legacy that the tagline of this show is a celebration of the greatest body of broadcast work in history, that of David Letterman and company. And your dad, as far as I'm concerned, is an essential part of that company. And you continuing on the legacy that he built and inspired so many people with so many things. And I just want to say thank you very, very much for taking time out of your day to come on here. Congratulations on the Hall of Fame. By my count, it's about 25 years too late, but better late than never. I'm so glad that it's happening. And by the way, anytime you have something coming out, you want to talk about something with somebody or whatever, you have an open invitation to come on here. And Jordan, you're just such a great guy. Adam and I are good buddies now, and I just want to say thank you so much for Adam. Thank you very much for everything that you do as well. Thank you for your friendship. I just want to say thank you guys for appearing on the Letterman podcast today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike, as always.
Awesome. This is why we do the show, everybody. The deep dive. We all know I love the deep dive, and that's what we're doing here. This has been another episode of the Letterman Podcast with Mike Chisholm. Coincidentally, I am Mike Chisholm. Thank you, and good night.
Overcoat and underpants.